The following episode is brought to you by the American Urological Association. Today's special episode comes to you from the AUA Office of Research and Research Education Committee and will highlight key research education programming planned for AUA 2026. For more information on the research education programming or to register, please visit auanet.org/AUA2026.
I'm Dr. Henry Lai, Chair of the AUA Research Council, and in today's episode, we'll discuss the dynamic can't-miss research educational program planned at the 2026 AUA annual meeting. We'll explore how leaders in urology can integrate the lessons learned from this research educational program to gain a competitive edge in the career development and program leadership. So joining me today for this discussion is a pleasure for me to introduce Dr. Naveen Kachroo, who serves as the chair of the AUA Research Education Committee. Hi, Dr. Kachroo.
Hey, hi, Dr. Lai. Thank you so much for having me. It's a real pleasure to be here. Our goal really today is going to be to sort of provide our listeners with an overview of the research education programming that we've been working towards for the AUA 2026. And we really want to highlight how some of these sessions are going to be valuable, not only for those sort of in the front line of research, but also to all those people within the specialty itself, and especially those sort of current and aspiring leaders who work in sort of our modern healthcare environment, and to understand how the research is, really intertwined with our career growth and program success, even if you're not directly conducting your research yourself.
Good. Well, that sounds really great. Let's get started. But before we go there, tell me a little bit more. Convince me. Why is research important to urology leaders for those of them who doesn't do any actively conducting any research? And why it would be valuable for them to learn about these opportunities at the AUA annual meeting?
Great question, Dr. Lai. As we know, urology is really evolving. We have to keep up to breast with what's going on, the new developments. And for many urologists who aren't sort of doing research directly, you really do need to have a finger on the pulse on what's going on throughout the specialty. Even if you're more focused on benign, there's a lot of good work that goes on in the malignant world as well that can kind of help us. And it can be challenging for many leaders to really sort of stay ahead of this and actually know what's out there. And especially for those kind of leaders who are wanting to go out and become division chiefs, department chairs, within academic settings, or even sort of leadership within their sort of own institutions. In order to be successful, you really need to have your ear to the ground and what's really being driven in the field, not just clinically, but also in research. You want to know what's the latest and greatest that's going out there. And if you're sort of, we really want to know that when you're applying your knowledge to developing your programs, that you know what is important. Because if you don't understand what's there in the current research landscape, it'll be challenging to recruit the best faculty, to know where to allocate resources, where to make the right investments in order to create that best package for your department. And even for those who are sort of more clinically focused leaders within academic settings, you're developing a well-rounded division or department, rich in that academic currency and in terms of, high frequency of high impact papers, volumes of publications overall, grant funding, high profile presentations and exposure at national meetings, developments of patents. All of these things are vital to the success of your department.
Well, that's a great point, but give me a minute to play devil's advocate, if you may. So looking into the future, maybe even now, today, healthcare is becoming increasingly corporatized, even in academic traditional setting. So 10, 15 years from now, will this so-called academic currency still have any value? And if the value of this academic currency is depreciated over time, or maybe even now, why does research still matter to urology leaders in urology?
Yeah, you're exactly right. Many sort of, academic institutions, chairs, heads of divisions, really do seek that academic currency. But there is that sort of disconnect where a lot of hospitals and health systems and executives really are sort of seeking about revenue generating clinical productivity. And this is really something that a lot of people are challenged with and is an indisputable fact. But what we as urologists really need to grasp, and especially savvy leaders, is that research can play a real subtle but direct and important role in how we can generate clinical revenue. When we think about hospital marketing campaigns, what do we really see? We see that the US News and World Report rankings, which a lot of our our patients and potential people will be looking at, that really, you could be the only hospital in a city that may, or state even, that can offer the newest, the latest, and the greatest treatments. And a lot of those, those things will only really be available to centers that are involved in research in clinical trials. And a lot of marketing campaigns really highlight how an institution may be providing cutting-edge technology or cutting-edge research. And a lot of patients, when they're sort of looking up your institution or looking you up as a provider, are really trying to find that elite individual to go to their care for. And those kind of things will really put you, leaps and bounds ahead of others. So really, the strongest overall programs are the ones that really do realize that there is value in research, that research engagement can really help build your program and, really holistically show that it is a valuable element to the way that you can generate clinical revenue by getting your name out there as being a leader in the field.
Oh, that sounds good. You gave really compelling arguments for those of us who work in academic practice setting. But as you know, a lot of urologists are independent practice, and independent practice constitute a strong portion of the urologists in the United States. Why would an independent practice urologist care about research?
Again, another good question. So with independent practice settings, we know that a lot of our sort of membership works in those settings. And, they are seeing a huge volume of patients that would be rich to be involved in studies. And we know a lot of great independent practice, providers who are notoriously famous for creating fantastic clinical trial research within urology. And in order to be sort of successful, you have to be able to engage in clinical trial research. And it's an essential skill in order to be able to do that. And for those sort of independent practice urologists who want to aspire to national leadership roles, within the AUA and within urology generically, being involved in early stages of research in basic science, translational or clinical trials and industry partnerships is critical in order to do that. So for our sort of listeners who aren't, directly involved in an academic setting where, where basic and translational science may be occurring, but you do have aspirations to rise into sort of leadership roles or advisory board levels within sort of, other institutions, an involvement in clinical trials can really help you understand things and see, you can maybe able to see the possibilities of sort of preclinical stages of research and how that can really ascend into the clinical settings. And it brings up an important point relevant to all urologists, irrespective of practice setting. Research engagement is a vital tool to open up doors to engagement with industry. This can provide urologists and programs with educational and sort of resources that will be very sort of, very important.
Okay, that's great. So last question relating to this topic. How about our listeners who are trainees, residents, fellows, medical students, and those of us who is not interested in research? Why would they still care about a research program at the 2026 annual meeting at the AUA?
Yeah, this is very important. And, I've recently just been appointed as a program director. So education for trainees and medical students is very important for me. The primary point that I want is that for all listeners, that you are focused on any kind of development in their careers, whatever stage that may be, or any kind of aspirations of being a future leader. Research is a critical component in order to get your name out there, to get you on that national stage, to show that you have credibility. You can become a legend in your hospital. You can be, cranking out the biggest in the most cases, have amazing outcomes, but you may not be known about outside of your institution of all the great work that you may be doing. And research is an ability for people nearby, within your locality, within your state, and even on a national stage, to understand what you can do, and really get you to that next stage in your leadership journey, if that's what you would like. And even if research is not your passion or primary goal, it is a valuable tool to open many doors, within clinical or non-research opportunities. And as we mentioned, involvement with industry partnerships. And there really is no better place to add this tool to professional development toolbox than coming to the research education programs that we'll be offering at AUA 2026.
Great. I think you gave me a lot of convincing arguments. So, Dr. Kachroo, I know you've been serving as a chair of the Research Education Committee for about half a year or more. And you mentioned to me that the AUA Office of Research and the Research Education Committee have made several exciting changes to enhance AUA's ability to deliver the most timely, in-demand research education topics. Can you tell us more about what is coming in the AUA programs?
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Lai. So yeah, the Research Education Committee has really been completely restructured since I took over. And the goal is really to sort of develop a mechanism to design, implement gold standard research education programs by the leading subject experts encompassing the entire breadth of urologic research. And I'm really lucky to have a sort of diverse, engaged group of highly successful members within my group. They span basic and translational science, as well as clinical and health outcomes research and clinical trials. And they're a fantastic group to work with. And they've really been sort of pivotal in helping develop some of the programming that we're going to be talking about. And at AUA 2026, you'll see that the AUA is working alongside many research leaders nationally and internationally to design pathways that are customized to the meeting programs and sessions, which we are hoping is designed to meet the needs to all types of researchers, clinician investigators, surgeon scientists, clinical trialists, clinical researchers, basic scientists, translational researchers. We really want to have something that's available for every single one of our membership. And for the first time, AUA is creating an internationally designed roadmaps to sort of take the research focused, research engaged, or research curious urologists, scientists, trainees, medical students along that journey through the AUA with a robust content which is designed specifically for them as their target audience.
Wow, that sounds really exciting to me. I know a lot of our listeners really strongly care the most about clinical trial research. So can you tell me something about the clinical trial research program that you're planning at the AUA 2026 annual meeting, and what do they expect at the annual meeting for clinical trials research?
Thanks, Dr. Lai. Yeah, this is a really important part of what we were trying to hope to develop. And we're going to sort of jump into sort of two clinical trial research focused programs that we've developed as a team. So the first one is the planning to plenary, behind the scenes of leading urology clinical trials. And this is going to be held on Sunday, May 17th, between 8 and 9 a.m. And we have great leadership by Dr. Neil Shaw and Zachary Clayson. They really need no introduction. Dr. Shaw, for example, is an internationally recognized leader in clinical trial research, even beyond urology and even into oncology. He, driving the delivery of new prostate and bladder cancer treatments to our patients. A really, highlight research education program here that will kick off an entire day of clinical trials in progress presentations in the Learning Lab, which is going to be in the Science and Technology Hall. Planning to plenary, which I love that name, will take the audience on the journey in its name. As I say, it promises to deliver. We're going to explore what really goes on in the years and years of work that goes behind when you see that late-breaking pivotal trial that's presented in the plenaries at the AUA annual meeting, and also in other urology and oncology meetings. This really is, you can't miss this kind of programming, because I think this will appeal to everybody, from residents dreaming about being on that plenary stage one day as a national PI and a game-changing clinical trial, to those in their mid or senior career urologists who do have some experience as clinical trials, but really want to take things to the next level and get on that national leadership role within clinical trial research. The other program that's been developed is the next generation of clinical trial research, which is what trainees and program directors need to know. So directly applicable to the trainees and medical students out there. This will be on Saturday, May 16th, between 8 and 9 a.m. Dr. Belkoff and Dr. Hafran, Lawrence Belkoff and Dr. Jason Hafran will be leading this. And this program really addresses something that's sometimes overlooked, but tremendously important to the future of our specialty. We need to equip the next generation of urologists with the ability to conduct impactful clinical trial research. An important point that I do want to make, especially for many of us, who have been through training, is that when we're in the operating room doing surgery, there's a lot more to it. It's not just being a computer writing papers, doing lab-based research. Many trainees and early career investigators don't realize that you don't have to choose between being a prolific clinical surgeon and a prolific researcher, even with the 80-hour working week and RVU sort of target-driven models. And especially if you are one of those trainees who really doesn't like the idea of research, but really wants to be more involved and spend some time working clinically as well as being a leader on the national stage, going down that clinical trial investigation pathway may be a really great option for you to be able to do that and become a leader in your field. So the real question is how do you get there? Clinical trial research skills are not sort of formally incorporated within the curriculum and are not really part of many ACGME residency training programs throughout the US. So as a result, this could potentially put our specialty at risk of major stalls in sort of progress by advancing clinical trials if we don't equip our trainees with the tools to be able to do this. So that's why this program is developed. We want to explore ways that current residency and fellowship program directors and their trainees, ranging from interns to chiefs to advanced fellows, how they can overcome this and really prepare them to become part of that next generation of prolific clinical trial researchers. This will help not only their career advancement really, but take the field much further forward. So we kind of hope that these offerings, these two big offerings, will sort of complement many of the other programming without the AUA 2026. And as I mentioned, the clinical trials in progress and the P2 plenary presentations will feature many of the latest breaking clinical trial results, with many phase 1 and phase 2 early phase trial results in the clinical trials in progress sessions and in the learning lab, and then the phase 3 and phase 4 results in the plenary sessions as P2. So really do not miss this fantastic opportunity.
Wow, it sounds like some really exciting programming planned in the clinical trial space. But how about the other non-trial related clinical research at the annual meeting?
Yeah, so the AUA is going to be putting sort of some other exciting programs. One is the first in the innovation area of clinical research, as well as the sort of second population-based research program. So the first one is the From Bench to Bedside. This is going to be on Sunday, May 17th, between 10 and 12 p.m. We have two great course directors, Dr. Margaret Damiser, who was my predecessor as chair of the Research Education Committee, and Dr. Lynn Stuthers. And this symposium came to fruition based upon the concept that so many of us as urologists have found ourselves in the operating room. We're in the middle of a case, or we're maybe in the middle of a packed clinic, and we're really struggling with efficiency that we know is inevitable as modern urology practice evolves. And many of us have often asked ourselves, is there a better way to do this? Can I do this procedure better than what I'm currently doing? And many of us I know have taken that thought of even further, like, I have that aha moment. I know how we can fix this, but I have an idea, but what do I do next? How can I really take it forward? And that was the sort of how this thing got birthed. This program is designed to really explore how you can be a successful innovator and really take it from I have an idea to what do I do next? And there are some really great features that we've been able to incorporate as part of this. There'll be a historical milestones in the journey of urologic discovery to patient impact, which will be led by our AUA historian, Dr. John Phillips. There'll be a journey to the Sprack Prize perspective from recent winners of both academic and industry settings. There'll be innovation snapshots focused on tissue engineering and drug development. There'll also be an Ask the Innovators moderated audience Q&A session. There'll be an implementation science expert who'll be invited to give a talk on the critical art of implementation science, which is a very involving area and is a real area of innovation. And a special bonus treat that we're really excited about is that the AUA Museum has loaned us some urologic artifacts that are the living, breathing proof that of the power of innovation and how we've advanced urology. And this will be a sort of on display for all the attendees to check out in the same room as the session. The other session that we're offering is the Urologic Research Aging and Frailty Considerations, which is, again, a very high sort of impact area here. Dr. Tulika Garg and Dr. Ann Suskind, who are sort of national experts in this area, will be leading this for us. And this is going to be a delightful sort of 2-hour session going through the details there.
Good. Wonderful. Wow. So I'm hearing a lot of good content surrounding clinical research and exploring innovation in our field and how to bring innovation into clinical practice. But what about the research that happens before that? What is it in the 2026 programming that we're offering to urologists and scientists focus on basic research or clinical translational research for the annual meeting?
Another great question, Dr. Lai. So for this target audience, the AUA Office of Research is really proud to deliver a sort of combined symposium between the AUA and the SBUR, the Society for Basic Urologic Research. And this is really exciting. This will be on Friday, May 15th. Dr. Chris Peniston and Dr. Jinden Yu are going to be the two sort of course directors for this program, sort of representing that collaboration. And this really is a special event to deliver a new collaboration between the AUA and the SBUR at the annual meeting. This will involve a sort of 6-hour program, which will focus on the latest scientific advances in basic and translational research phases in benign urology, specifically comorbidity-induced genitourinary problems, benign prostatic hyperplasia, and urothelial pathophysiology and functional bladder disorders. And a unique feature of this program, which we're really excited about, is the Lab Meets Practice clinician-scientist discourse panel discussion. Following each session, clinical urologists will have the ability to discuss critical questions relating to the science presented in the preceding session and to sort of address how it can affect real-life clinical needs. This will facilitate, we think, robust discourse between scientists and clinicians, potentially resulting in new avenues to address new real-world problems problems and hopefully bridge the gap between the bench and the bedside. And I, for one, cannot wait to see this. I think it's going to be an incredibly unique and valuable format. And we really value this kind of collaboration, as this is what is going to be needed to move from the bench to the bedside and what urology really needs to move forward.
Wow, that's exciting. Last question for you, Dr. Kachroo, today, saving the best question for the last. I know AUA historically has hosted an annual earlier career investigator showcase where the best and the brightest researchers in urology gather to share their work. Is this happening again in 2026 annual meeting? And why should our audience need to be there to attend and listen to the ECIW?
Completely agree with you, Dr. Lai. Yes, this will be offered at the AUA 2026 and is really a highlight program. So yeah, the Early Career Investigators Showcase will be on Friday, May 15th. Myself, as well as Dr. Popovich, Petra Popovich, are going to be the course directors for this. And so, the AUA 2026 the attendees for the meeting really need to know about this showcase, or the ECIS as it's commonly called, as it really is an encore presentation of all the most promising, novel, and impactful research that is happening across the field. Some of this work has been published in some of the leading journals, presented in very high-profile sessions at other meetings, not just AUA meetings, but some will be presented for the very first time here at this meeting, and will be sort of, having that novel ability to sort of showcase some real amazing talent and research. So what are you getting from attending the ECIS? You're really going to get a front row seat to what is really the future. All the best and brightest research that is boldly pushing our field forward is going to be packaged into this epic 2-hour experience. And I don't want to give too much away, but having reviewed the work that's going to be presented from the oral as well as poster abstract sessions, it's going to be phenomenal. We are in for a real treat. All modalities are going to be covered, from true basic science to sort of longitudinal clinical outcomes research are going to be highlighted. Keep an eye out for some of the showcase presenters. These really are cutting edge people, really the future of our field. Several exciting AI and technology focused abstracts are also going to be there. And we know this is a big sort of push for the field now. And the last point I really want to make you to convince all of our leaders today to attend this showcase is to make sure that you are there on Friday on between 3:30 to 5:30, because this year's nomination cycle has been the most competitive in the history of the showcase. 61 total investigators were nominated, and there was a very rigorous peer review process, and the top 11 abstracts will be presented at the podium, and there will also be some poster abstracts as well, we'll have 14 poster abstract presenters. These are the very best of the nominated work from the AUA section, specialty societies, and international member committees, and we've really consolidated this into a 2-hour showcase for your viewing pleasure, so please be there. This is something you don't want to miss. Hopefully we've whet the reader's appetite to want to be there. Lots of great programming encompassing all areas, applicable to everybody. So really hope to see you there at the meeting.
Yeah, and thank you to all our audience for joining us today. Until next time, continue to learn, lead, and excel, and have a good day.